Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Lahui Kauai. I am your host. I am Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I am very happy. I get a break, get to go to Hawaii for a short time. My family needed this break, and glad to be able to do this for my wife. I'm now joined by my buddy who is in the facility right now, my co-beat writer with the Las Vegas Raiders, the one and only, the great Ezekiel Trezevant. Zeke, how are you, bud?
Doing well, Hondo. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Zeke, let's get right to it. At 12 noon, Thursday of the bye week, Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, our story dropped. A deep dive into the divorce between the Raiders and Davante Adams. I'll tell you what, this has been a labor of love. It's your first deep dive, and you and I worked together, I mean, equally, and you crushed it, man.
Yes, sir. Listen, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, first and foremost, and then just helping me grow. And I told you that privately. I would like to tell you that publicly as well. So thank you. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, let's talk about this because this was a hard decision how this came out for you and I. And I think we got to give credit to our bosses because I'm proud to work at a place like SI that when we had this story and people who have gotten to read it will understand, but when we got this story, we could have ran with it right then. And that was our debate. I mean, I remember you and I talked about this at length, and the decision was made. You know what? It hurts the franchise now, and that's not our goal. It's never our goal. But to wait doesn't minimize the story. It doesn't lessen the story. And we knew it was going to come to a head. I'm proud to work for the largest sports media company in the world at SI, and I'm proud of our decision. Hey, it's not always about clicks today. It's you got to do the right thing, and I'm proud of this work that we did. And it wasn't just us, obviously. Our bosses and you and I want to give a public recognition to the great Rick Goslin. Many people believe he is probably the greatest NFL writer of all time who had a big hand in this as well. I just think I'm proud of where we work. I'd love your thoughts on that. And then we're going to dig into the article.
Yeah. I mean, and again, Hondo, you and I have spoken about this, in terms of how we, where we work and our bosses, that they have our backs, and that that, hey, this is, I've had to learn myself that this is bigger than me, right? And that I have the support of my bosses, of the company that I work for. That's huge. As somebody who's building their confidence, to know that, hey, Sports Illustrated is behind us. That goes a long way. So excited about it on that note, and then just kind of excited so everybody can read those inside details and know, the information we have in there.
You know, one of our bosses, the legend, a legend himself, made a comment about our article that I wanted to talk about on air when he said, when you read the article, it really makes the Raiders look really good for how hard they tried to make this work. I agree with him. Now, you and I don't work for the Raiders, so we're not out to get the Raiders' approval or disapproval. That's really irrelevant. Our job is to get the story and tell it. We work for the people. But I thought that's why you and I kept telling people tap the brakes. When people said, oh, it was the AP allegedly liking a Sports Illustrated tweet that that's what wanted Davante. I think when people, the reason we told them to tap the brakes a little bit, I think came clear in this story. What do you think?
Oh yeah, crystal clear. Because at the end of the day, you'll realize that social media, like, that was the cherry on top. And there's so many other things that happened before that. That was just, when AP liked that social media post, that was him saying, this is, like, it's come to a head, right? This is it. So
Allegedly,
allegedly, sorry, got to throw that out there. Allegedly.
allegedly.
So when AP allegedly liked that social media post, yeah, that would. I mean, you got to think, he's an NFL head coach. He's a former player, Super Bowl winning player. He did. It's not like he didn't. I'm going to say allegedly again. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but
We
come
don't
on.
even know if he did. He has
I don't
not
know.
confirmed or
I I,
denied.
I don't
We're
know.
just saying allegedly.
Allegedly. So yeah, that was the cherry. That's not even the icing on the cake. The Davante thing, that was the liking of the social media post. That wasn't the icing on the cake. That was the cherry on top of the icing. There's so many other things that had happened going back years that played into this.
I had one Raider fan that read it and said, Okay. Bye, Felicia. I don't know what that means. And when I told them I didn't know what that means, they laughed at me. So if that's anything vulgar, I don't mean it vulgar. That's just what I is that vulgar? Do you happen to know
No,
what
no,
that
no,
means?
not at all. No, sir. It's a funny movie reference, but it's not vulgar at all. No, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure I don't want to get involved in that. But I've learned now that I'm starting to like rap that sometimes I have said, "Boy, I like this rapper," and then I find out that the words are different and I feel bad because people are like, "Why would you say that?" I'm like, "It's a great song." And then they send me the words. I'm like, "I've never heard those words and it's different what they play on the radio." But anyways, moving along. Um I want to ask you because it's a divorce that goes back a long ways. And again, I credit you and our article for really laying that out. It almost appeared to me, and I would love your thoughts because you're younger than me, you think differently than me. It was almost exhaustive how hard the Raiders tried to make it work. And to me, the biggest thing is when I learned about Davante asking Antonio Pierce to come up to his office and what Antonio was thinking and what happened. It almost made you think, okay, you know what? Be a professional when the Raiders could have traded you a long time ago and gotten a lot more. It wasn't just the wanting to be traded, is the Raiders were hurt by it. And that really stood out to me. How about you?
Yeah, I think it. We'll take it a step further if you don't mind, Hondo. When AP came out and said the whole business decision thing, the Davante's lack of play in that game was the business decision he had talked about, but it started well before that, right? He had been making business decisions, and you got to understand the Raiders are a business too. They're a football team, but they're a business as well. So they want to make sure that they get fair compensation when they send off a trade. Now you're trading him a quarter of the way through the season when you could have traded him months ago, right? So if Davante, and I know I'm assuming he did, he knew he wanted it out well before he communicated that, and he had a chance to communicate that, and he didn't. At that point, you're putting your business over a multi-billion-dollar business, and that's on top of that's just business. That's not even feelings, emotions. I thought you wanted to be here. There's so many other things that play into it. So yeah, Davante, he could have did things differently. I think he would admit that, but it's water under the bridge right now.
One story that didn't make our article because it was so long, but you and I had an encounter with a player's family member. And you remember this, it was long before Davante asked for the trade when they called them the diva. And I remember you and I were both like, what? And I think it was almost the players saw it before the organization. And I'm going to put it this way, and because you're younger, you feel free. You know you can correct me. We're equals. We're co-beat writers. I'm older than you. You got younger kids. And now that my kids are older and we get together, I hear of things they did when they were younger and I didn't know about. And I'm like, how do like my one son was talking about sneaking out of his room and getting out the window. And I'm like, well, how'd you get out the window? It was too far of a drop. You're hunting rope ladder. What? And anyways, my point was it was almost like the players saw this all along and management's like, no, he keeps saying he wants to be here. Let's go. I'm not painting that to make the manager. It goes back to our thought process of, I mean, they did everything to make it work. Do you think I misread that into all this?
No, well, first and foremost, I have a quick saying of the players know. Okay, the players know. They know everything. Okay, they know if you don't want to be there. They know if you do want to be there. They know what you're doing. They know everything. Okay, they know if you can play. If you're a good football player, they know everything. So yes, the players they definitely knew before the front office. But I think that's where the front office is. The hard feelings kind of came in is because they've consulted Davante on so many other issues and had that open line of communication. But when it comes to the biggest issue possible of Davante, do you want to be here? He wasn't honest. That's frustrating. That's hurtful when there should have been an open line of communication. So I think that all played into it.
What did you think of the player's comment that said to us it was almost like the person that wants out of a relationship but they want it to be the other person's idea. So they kind of, their behavior isn't the best, hoping the other one breaks up so they get the sympathy. And the Raiders just kept going along with it till finally, all right, I want out. I mean, I thought that was a telling quote. Did you not?
I think it was a telling quote. I think it was an accurate quote, and I think it's a quote that a lot of people can identify with, right? I think, on some level, we've all been on some kind of relationship where one person didn't want to be in it. And instead of just saying, hey, I want out, it's I'm going to push every button I can to make you kick me out so I can look like the victim. I can look like the good person. I definitely think that was an accurate quote. And that's what happened. I mean, that's essentially what happened. Had Davante just said, hey, I want out months ago, it wouldn't have happened like this. The Raiders could have got more in compensation for him. He could have left and not have burned so many bridges like he did on the way out.
You were in the building on Tuesday in the locker room. You were there. I'm just curious. The new additions, Joe Philbin takes over the offensive line. We hinted at that on Tuesday because we had an idea that that was probably coming, which I thought was a big deal. Uh, Scott Turner, which we kind of hinted at a little bit, gets the OC job. Norv Turner becomes I don't know the title, I think senior offensive assistant or something like that. I love it. I have no complaints over it at all. I'd love your thoughts on this process.
Experience, a ton of experience and respect in between those three names, right? These guys, I mean, you add up all their years in the NFL. I mean, what Hano's got to go over what 30, 40, 50, probably just off the top of my head. So a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge that I think is going to come in handy here. But I think what we have to keep in mind is that the Raiders are in a tough situation. They're in a difficult situation, and they can't hide that anymore. So I think that's why AP went and got even more experience of people who have been through good times, good teams, bad teams, and saying, hey, what can we do collectively to get this thing at least look better, right? And it sounds cliche when AP says it. It didn't look the way I wanted to look. It sounds cliche, but that's a real thing, right? Like you can go lose and look better than they've looked on the field, right? It's not always about winning and losing. Sometimes it's how you lose, and that's where they are right now. So I think the three guys he brought in are going to help out a lot.
What was your thought, Zeke? And I thought this was an interesting one. But how do you think the players are going to respond to this? I think they're going to be excited. I think they're going to look at it as a turning of the page. I don't think there's going to be a lot of wailing and weeping over the loss of Luke Getzey. I'm not trashing him. We both know he's a terrific man. This is not personal. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of sadness. What do you think?
Yeah, and again, right off the top, this is not to bash Luke Getzey. It's never none of us ever want to see another human being lose their job. Forget what the job is, but
Never.
to lose their job, that's families are impacted. So I want to start there. But with that in mind, I don't think the locker room is necessarily going to be hurt by the move, but I think they're going to be energized, not in the sense of hey, everything we're going to do from now on is going to work out, but they're going to be energized from the sense of at least we tried to do something different. Okay, so the first 9 weeks of the season, all of their losses looked pretty much the same for the most part, right? It's going to be a close game. A turnover or two is going to swing the game, and then they lose. It happens. It's been happening every week almost, right? I think right now what the players are going to say is, man, we might lose this week, but at least we tried something different, right? We didn't go out there and do the same thing, beat our head against the wall, and it not work. I don't think people understand how much that weighs on these guys mentally, right? They're putting all this physical work in. These guys are big, and then you go out there for 8-9 weeks after the off-season training. You're doing all the same things week in, week out, and it's not working. That weighs on these guys. I think they're going to be energized by the sense of, hey, at least we're trying something new.
I agree with you. And I like AP's fight. He could have just said, you know what, and thrown in the towel. That guy is going to fight, and I can't help it. Zeke, you and I both feel the same. I like the guy. His players adore him.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, and I got an email on this. When Josh McDaniels was here, the guys were frustrated with him, but they didn't quit on him. And you were there. How many players have thanked us for, hey, thank you for making it clear we didn't quit? That would have been a statement on our character. And I mean, how many? We had a lot. They were frustrated with him, but they didn't dislike him away from the facility. With AP, they haven't quit on him, and they love him. They love playing for him. They believe in him. And to me, I just think it continues to paint a picture of where this organization is, where this franchise is, and they don't care that. I mean, they care that they're 2-7. I'm not pretending they don't, but they're going to battle and do their best to go 8-0. That's just their mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it speaks to AP's his will, and you said it's fight. Uh, I'll dive a little bit deeper in there if you don't mind, in terms of the whole
Please.
situation with Getsy, right? Because he could have folded and said, "Hey, you know what? It is what it is. We're going to ride this out with Luke for the full season." And you got to think there's a human side of this too, right? He's only been here. Luke had only been here for 9 games, right? I'm sure part of
Mhm.
AP was saying, "Hey, he's only been here for 9 games. Let me not cut. Let me give him a fair shot, right?" But at the same time, there comes a point where you, as a head coach, have to make that tough decision, and AP made that tough decision. So I think it's huge that he was able to still be a human, still give him a fair shot. But when it's time to make that call, you make that call. So with that in mind, yes, the players have not quit on AP. I'd also like to say this, AP. There was a question in the presser after the game where AP was asked, "Hey, where has this team gotten better at?" And AP was basically like, "Nowhere." I would disagree. Last year when they were losing, this team they didn't quit on it on McDaniels, but you could tell that there was some frustration. As much frustration as there is this season, it's a completely different vibe, right? That is where the team has gotten better at. Okay, and it
Mhm.
might not go a long way. It might not be that satisfying for people who want to see them do better than 2-7. But you got to understand this team. The problems on this team are bigger than AP. It's bigger than really anybody in that locker room. This is a years long process that has gotten them here. So if you're curious as to where they've gotten better, they're taking the lumps better. And that goes a long way. That speaks to culture. That speaks to where this team is headed in the future.
You and I talked we've talked extensively about the fact that if things didn't change when they got to the bye week, there was going to be significant change. And we've been very clear. We weren't calling for anyone, but we had been kind of tipped off that, and we talked a lot about it privately, that if things didn't change, there were going to be change. So we weren't shocked by the change. But were you shocked it came so quick? I I I I was a little. I thought it would probably come Monday after his press conference. I was a little bit shocked how quick it happened. Were you a little bit shocked by that?
So this is what I'll tell you. Not all that shocked, simply because if you're going to get a new OC, and first of all, you got to take the time to figure out who you want, right? So you want to get that started as soon as possible, right? If you already know the answer is you're firing the guy, there's really no need to wait, right? Go ahead and make that decision and go forward. So was I surprised? Because it seemed like it was pretty, it was a couple hours after the game, right? So in that sense, yes, I was surprised. But with the bye week, you want as much time as possible. And I also think, and I've written this in a couple of articles, I think it speaks to the fact that they had tried everything. There was nothing else to try. They did everything they could, and it was not going to work. There's no, oh, well, maybe we can try this. No, they had exhausted all of their options. Firing Luke Getsy was the only choice. So that's why I wasn't all that surprised that it was so quick.
And the biggest guy to celebrate tonight, and not celebrating because somebody lost a job, but celebrating because I think he's going to get a look like he had last year, Zamir White.
Man, man, I listen respectfully. Luke Getsy came dangerously close to ruining that man's career, not on purpose, but just a round peg square hole. It just don't get. Come on, how do you go from the last 4 games that he had last season to just not being able to do anything this season? Did Zamir White forget how to play football over the offseason? I don't think so. He's been balling his whole life. Maybe it's the scheme. Maybe we need to cater things to, when I say we as the Raiders, that's how they're thinking. Maybe they need to cater things to Zamir, to that skill set, right? And I understand that he's not the best running back in the world. They don't have the best offensive roster. I get that. But in the NFL, you have to work with what you got. That's the name of the game. And Zamir White is a great running back, is a good running back. So I think the problem is again those last 4 games of last season. So we've seen what he can do, right? And Hondo, they went to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs without completing a pass after the first quarter. And no Josh Jacobs. Well, come on, they've done it. They have done it. So the fact that he went the complete opposite way, that's not all on the player. So to your point, yes, I think, and Zamir would never say it, and none of us are speaking for Zamir, but as people who've been watching what's going on, yes, he was the one that was the most negatively impacted by Luke Getsy. Yes, sir.
And since we started this talking about our deep dive article into Davante, can we end with this? Uh, you mentioned the Chiefs game last year when we had someone say in our article, the team source, don't be complaining that you want more balls, and then don't be here, or when you're here, drop them.
Facts. Big facts.
What?
I said facts. Like that's facts. That's all I'm gonna
Facts.
say. Facts.
Or, yeah. Or as you say, 100.
100.
All right. He is the great Ezekiel Trezevan. Don't come any better than this guy. One of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. Zeke, appreciate you. Congratulations. What a great article you wrote, bud.
Thank you, man. Again, thank you for the
I'm just
opportunity.
glad to be. I'm just glad to be living in your world now.
Stop.
My my journalism's going up with all the help you're giving me.
Listen, more than anything, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. Yes, sir.
Well, you're doing a great job. Promoted now to co-beat writer. Man, you're killing it. So appreciate you, Zeke. Keep up all the great work. That's Ezekiel Trezevan, our terrific co-beat writer of the Las Vegas Raiders on Sports Illustrated. We'll see y'all again tomorrow. Zeke, tell everybody how to find you on social media, will you?
Yes, sir. On X/Twitter, EZT as in Tom, REZ as in zebra, _SI as in Sports Illustrated.
Awesome. Thanks, Zeke.